boisterous or threatening or personally abusive of the body, staff, or members of the public shall be asked by the mayor to cease and desist such activity and may be requested or required to leave the meeting in the event the behavior continues to disrupt the meeting proceedings. So we've added that to the public speaker card submittal so that members of the public are aware. And with that, Mayor, we have 14 public comment cards submitted. So I will start the 20-minute timer. The first speaker is Alex Girogosian, followed by Dr. Katie Clark, followed by Michael Williams.
And before we do that, let me just say the statement made by the clerk is important for everyone to keep in mind. Of late, we've had what I would describe as unacceptable comments directed at members of the city council or staff, and it's inappropriate. There's no place for it, and I will take the appropriate action to limit instances such as that, consistent with our rules of decorum. So I hope that we don't see or hear what we have in past meetings. Thank you.
So let's bring in Alex Girogosian. Mr. Girogosian, go ahead and unmute.
Wonderful. Can the council hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead. Your 3 minutes has started.
Thank you. So my name is Alex Girogosian. I'm a resident at 125 North Allen. I live in District 2. And so I actually grew up in Pasadena, and I left for school, but I decided to come back because Pasadena is just a great place to live. It's super diverse. It's diverse in a lot of different senses, including racial diversity, economic diversity, cultural diversity. So just a great place to live. I'm happy to be here. Thank you to the council members for all the work you do. I'm actually a city attorney in a different city, so I know how difficult the job is, and I really appreciate all the work you do for our city. I called just to quickly advocate for consideration of the religious overlay zoning. I know we're considering it in our different cities. I think it's probably a really good way to meet your arena allocation. It's so long as the individual religious institutions support the overlay, I think it'd be a really good way also to make sure that we get low-income residents and provide them an opportunity to live in the city. I'm an attorney, and I'm having trouble. I had a very difficult time finding a condo or any kind of housing in the city, so I can only imagine what it's like for low-income residents to find housing in the city. And lastly, I just wanted to say that I think it's probably a good idea to also, although state law allows for multifamily housing to be by right in many cases, I think it'd also be probably a good idea to make sure that the ordinance itself for the overlay zone includes some kind of by right provision. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will bring in Dr. Katie Clark, followed by Michael Williams, followed by Jane Ward. Dr. Clark, go ahead and unmute your mic, and you may begin.
Thank you so much. Mayors and members of the City Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dr. Katie Clark, and I'm speaking this evening in my role as chair of the National Women's Political Caucus of the Greater Pasadena area. Like other commenters, I was moved to make a comment this evening following the events of the City Council meeting on August 16th, when a public commenter directed personal attacks towards members of City Council and city staff, including a racial slur directed at Councilmember Williams. I have to say I was really glad to hear the city clerk mention the meeting policies this evening and to hear your observations, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad that the policies have been added to the public comment card, and I certainly hope that's a practice that continues as part of the regular operation of this council, and that you move quickly to enforce those policies as needed. I was also glad to hear the recognition that these kinds of comments and attacks are entirely unacceptable. Those of us who serve in elected office know that we sign up for folks to disagree with us, and that's fine. Personal attacks, racial slurs, and outright misogyny are absolutely not part of the deal. But we at NWPC are particularly concerned because we know that these kind of attacks, harassment, and threats will persist for as long as they are allowed to persist. We know that women elected officials, and particularly women of color, are much more likely to be the targets of these kind of attacks and harassing interactions with the public. And it's often cited by women that we recruit as one of the reasons that they won't run for office. Normalizing racist, sexist, and personally abusive attacks as just the cost of doing business, or telling women that they need to grow a thicker skin, tacitly endorses those attacks as acceptable in the public discourse, and they are not. This council has adopted a resolution declaring its full commitment to women's rights and full equality through legislative and policy actions as per the UN's Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. We believe that the
40
consistent
seconds.
enforcement of the city's meeting policies would be an excellent and concrete step to take, but it's only the first step. As we work towards more equity and towards the election of more women to public office, we ask you, Mr. Mayor, and members of council to create governing bodies that honor all points of view while also honoring the respectful, civil, and democratic discourse we all deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll call on Michael Williams, followed by Jane Ward, followed by Jasmine Richards Abdullah.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, Mr. Williams, go ahead.
First of all, your vague policy violates the First Amendment. So you might want to change it. If you're trying to block people from saying things that are racist and sexist and other things, you might want to change it to make that an explicit part. Because from what I hear is that you're trying to stop people from just saying things that you don't like or things that would make you feel bad. And that's not what these public comments are supposed to be about. This is supposed to be a way for people to express how they feel. And you are blocking that with your policy. And if you enforce any part of that policy, expect a lawsuit, because that is a blatant, your policy is a blatant violation of freedom of speech. The second thing is, you know why I'm calling, and I'm only calling because I want to be in communion and unity with the rest of the community here in Pasadena about Anthony Mclean and asking you all to do the right thing. But I'm actually very tired of it, and I see what you all are in your positioning to do, which is wait this out, pass it the buck, pass it to Garscone, pass it to the chief, pass it to Marmel, and wash your hands of this Anthony Mclean situation. And I see that's what you're determined to do. And so I'm through asking through this means for you guys to do what is right. And I know the rest of the community wants to come to you and ask you to do what's right. And I hope you listen to them. And I hope you heed what they're saying. And I hope you take into consideration all the calls that you get concerning Anthony Mclean. But we need more than just talk at this point. And we need more than just updates. We need action. It's been over a year.
1 minute.
Coming up on 2 years. And we need you all to make a decision, the right decision, which is firing the multiple officers. It's not even just two, the multiple officers that were involved in the murder of Anthony Mclean. That is the right thing to do. That is the just thing to do. And I have very little hope that you'll do it without significant pressure from us. I don't think you'll do it by us asking you and continue to call you, but we'll continue to call. We'll continue to make our presence known and voice our opinions. We'll continue to let you know that we think that this is something that needs to be done and that action needs to be taken here, because that's what is the right thing for us to do, because we care about what happened to Anthony Mclean. We care about his family, and we want to make sure that nothing like this happens again. But it seems like y'all don't care about that. So other things have to be done. And
Your
other
time has
procedures have to be-
expired. Thank you. Next is Jane Ward, followed by Jasmine Richards Abdullah, followed by Adriana Batista. Ms. Ward, go ahead.
Yes, hello, City Council members. Thank you, Michael Williams, for speaking that truth. I am speaking today on behalf of Showing Up for Racial Justice to ask why, after a full year since Pasadena police officers shot Anthony Mclean in the back and killed him, the City Council has still not taken action. I have come and made public comments, I think probably 8 times now. I'm happy to be back. I will continue to come back until City Council takes action. For over a year, the community has been speaking about at council meetings, writing letters, holding protests. We've marched in the streets to demand that the officers who killed Anthony Mclean be fired and prosecuted under AB 392. We have asked for Chief Perez to be fired for staging a cover-up by publicly announcing the presence of a gun in Anthony Mclean's hand, a gun that no other viewer of the police footage can see, and for authorizing a culture of violence and brutality against Black men in our community, as he did when he declared that the officers who beat Chris Ballou had done nothing wrong. We've also pointed out to the council that it's time to keep cleaning house and let Steve Mermel go, because he keeps showing us that he has no interest whatsoever in police accountability in Pasadena. Instead, he's chosen inaction at every turn. None of these requests from the community have been addressed. Not only has there been no call for accountability and justice from the majority of the City Council members, with a couple of exceptions, hello, Tyrone Hampton, but now the city of Pasadena is obstructing justice by withholding evidence in the murder of Anthony Mclean in this case. The protective order on police reports and body camera footage must be lifted so that the DA can take appropriate action in this case. It's time to do the right thing and direct City Attorney Michelle McNaris to withdraw the restraining order on the evidence in Anthony Mclean's case. The community is watching. We are waiting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jasmine Richard Abdullah, followed by Adriana Batista, followed by Erica Nelson.
Hello, man, it's crazy, right? I've been doing this work for the past 7 years, and for 7 years, I've come to you guys demanding and requesting, and I know you guys don't really care, but I know how important it is to put things on public record. So we want the city of Pasadena to stop obstructing evidence by withholding evidence. We're demanding Michelle Bonaris, Pasadena Police Department, City Council, and the police union remove and withdraw the restraining order on evidence for the body cam footage for officers Edwin Dumagwindon, Ryan Maroney, Christian Rosa, Ronald Sereno, and Connor D. Duncan. Obstructing evidence has been a part of the city of Pasadena's history. We've seen this before with the Kendrick McDade's murder. 86% of Henry Janaco's Office of Independent Review report was redacted. This evidence was hidden. His mother, Anya Slaughter, was not able to know what happened to her baby for over 2 years. We know that you guys hired Henry Janaco, which is the independent auditor, but as soon as you guys didn't like what he had to say on that report, it was redacted and a restraining order was on that evidence. That Henry Janaco's office made over 50 recommendations for the previous police chief Sanchez to follow those recommendations. He considered 9 recommendations, but implemented none. It took over 2 years for Anya Slaughter to know what happened to her child. How Matthew Griffin failed to put his patrol car in park and ran Kendrick McDade over. How they were out of policy for separating on a dark street. If they were scared for their lives, why did they separate? So we know you guys know the truth, and you know these officers are guilty of murder, but you guys still harbor fugitives. City Council and the police union are all working together to cover up murder. We are demanding you remove this restraining order on the body cam footage for all of the officers. This is highly important in order for Gascon to do his work and in order for the independent auditor to fully do a thorough investigation. You guys are telling us that it's not. that it's not in your hands, that it's in the independent auditor's hands, that it's in Gaston's hands. But you guys have tied their hands. You guys have literally tied their hands by putting out a restraining order on this information. Michelle Bonaris, since you are the city attorney, we are demanding that you lift that restraining order. Now, I know that you guys are scared of the police union and receiving, you guys are going to get sued by the police union, but I'm asking you guys to not care about the money and to do what's right. You guys have a duty. And if you guys can't take what people are saying to you, I don't think you should be on city council. This is probably your limit. You're not going to excel past city council because you're not able to take on the frustrations of the community. So what I'm demanding you guys do is remove the restraining order from Officer Dumagwendon, Ryan Maroney, Christian
Your
Rosa,
time has
Ronald
expired.
Sereno, Connor Duncan. Thank you.
Thank you. Adriana Batista, followed by Erica Nelson, and followed by Heavenly Hughes. Ms. Hughes will be the last of the initial 20-minute speakers. Ms. Batista?
Pasadena Police Department has placed protective orders on body camera footage and police reports in the murder of Anthony Mclean. Chief Perez must lift the protective order now. City Council, please agendize PPD's policies that allow this protective order to exist. The city is obstructing justice, and any such protective order is highly suspicious. A state law requires police departments to publish footage of use of force incidents within 45 days. How is it that Chief Perez has been able to decide what footage to release and which to place a restrictive order on, creating hurdles for both private and public to know what from all angles what happened on that day, August 15th, 2020. Black Lives Matter Pasadena has been requesting all footage be released unedited since Anthony was killed over a year ago. When will the Community Police Oversight Commission start meeting? This obstructive behavior from Chief Perez and the city city attorney's office shows why Perez has been asked to retire early and why he still needs to be fired. He is not protecting or serving people of this city. His protection is vain. Although we cannot expect them to solve these issues, we need the Oversight Commission in place ASAP. Officer Sereno is still on duty in Northwest Pasadena, despite the fact that he handcuffed Anthony Mclean after he was shot multiple times and needed immediate medical attention. Sereno handcuffing Mclean created further damage, and he has no place on the field. Fire Ronald Sereno, fire Edwin Dumagwendon, fire Mulrooney. Release all the unedited footage. Connor Duncan and Christian Rosa are also involved, but due to this restrictive order, the public still does not know to what extent. What we do know, though, is that Rosa is still patrolling in Northwest Pasadena.
50 seconds.
That's all.
Thank you. Next, we have Erica Nielsen, followed by Heavenly Hughes. Erica, go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon, Council. My name is Erica Nellison, and I am a Pasadena resident, social worker, as well as a member of a local congregation, Pasadena Mennonite Church. First, I would just like to express my support of my previous Pasadena residents who commented about the situation with Anthony Mclean, and I also support their calls for the release of this information. But the main thing I would like to speak to the council about today is about the rezoning ordinance that could make church land usable for affordable housing. I would like to request this zoning amendment be made with you as City Council. Most churches in Pasadena are either not zoned in order to have housing on their property, or they're not zoned for the density that would make those projects feasible. And so we are asking for that ordinance to be amended. And there are two important things that I would like the council to consider for that amendment. First, we would like that zoning ordinance to be by right rather than discretionary. We feel this is foundational in order for developers to buy into projects that they know that these projects will be seen through to completion, as well as holding neighbors accountable, that we would all be on the same page for these types of projects, and these projects could not be sidetracked by folks who want to perpetuate racist and classist zoning in their neighbors. For example, people that just on principle don't want certain multifamily units in their area. And so we worry that a discretionary ordinance would not do what we need in bringing the affordable housing that we so desperately need here in Pasadena in an equitable way. So first, by right. Second, we would ask that the council would not delay any further. We know there has been multiple delays with addressing these requests by local residents to pass this ordinance. So we are asking that you would do so immediately.
1 minute.
I would also just like to thank my councilperson, Jessie Riva, for her general support of this ordinance, as well as many others on the council. And so just ask them to consider these new elements by right and do it as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a quick question. When do you expect that to come to council or to EdTech after, or where is it on the list with the housing task force?
Mayor, if I may respond to Councilmember Hampton's question. As previously discussed with the council, we have our housing element is with the state for its review. Once we get back from the state, either their approval or modifications to our housing element, our plan would then to bring the issue of the church housing overlay to the Planning Commission. We're expecting to do it by the end of the calendar year or shortly in the new year. That's the current timing.
Thank you, City Manager, for the timeline. I think that's important for people to know that it's getting closer to coming to council. Then also just to chime in on some of the public comments. The public comments have changed since the last time we have had council, mayor, and now it sounds as if outside of us not doing the personnel investigation, or not even starting it, well, at least that was weeks ago that we hadn't started it. It sounds as if we are, or not we, the city is has a restraining order on evidence. Is this correct, City Attorney?
Yes, Mayor, Mr. Hampton, members of the council, and the public. There is no restraining order. There is nothing that has been issued that would prevent the district attorney's office from completing their investigation. In the civil litigation, there are various orders that have been issued by the federal court and the judge, but there are no protective orders or anything over videos. So anything that's in the civil litigation is just applied to the parties, not to the district attorney's office or any further investigation or anything like that. So hopefully that kind of answers.
So the district attorney has has
Sorry?
full access to all of the evidence in the
Yes.
videos, correct? I just want to make sure that that assertion, false assertion, is corrected. The district attorney has access to everything that
Yes.
we have access to.
Yes.
Thank you.
To the, yes.
And the personnel investigation has not even started. That's still correct?
We're not going to address publicly what's up with the personnel.
You hear me?
We can kind of hear you, actually. It's cutting out.
Hello?
I think you were asking, had the personnel.
Okay. So has the personnel investigation started?
Mr. Hampton, you're breaking up, but
Yes. Has the person?
you there?
In terms of the person. In terms of the personnel investigation, we wouldn't discuss what's happening with the personnel matters. I think the chief may have mentioned that, and whether it started, I really can't address that.
Mayor, there's,
You addressed it at our last council meeting. You said that until the DA completed their investigation, our investigation didn't start.
That was referring to the independent investigation as opposed to the personnel investigation, if I recall correctly.
That was in regards to the personnel investigation. We actually have correspondence back and forth on this.
Okay.
Are you now telling me that the personnel investigation is underway? I mean, that's a question that is worthy of answer.
I can
don't
confirm,
understand why you can't answer if an investigation is happening or not.
I can get back to you. I think
I expect you to get back to not just me, but to the community that wants to know where we're at. I mean, it's been a whole year. A whole year in 15 minutes of video. I really just don't understand it. You're either going to clear the officers or not. What are you going to do? If I worked for the city of Pasadena, let's say I was a police officer,
Mr.
I
Hampton,
wouldn't want to have this over me every day.
yeah, Mr. Hampton, I think we're going a little bit far down.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I understand that you guys are going to cut me off, but the conversation about the policy and how the procedure goes should be something that the council talks about, because these things should not take this long, at least for us to finish what we need to finish on our end. We have an obligation to represent our employees, but also mainly to represent our community and our employees. Our employees and our community deserve expeditious reports and expeditious investigations to be complete.
Okay.
We keep on pointing our fingers at the DA and saying this is not our issue. This is not this issue. Whose issue is it? The person is in the city of Pasadena's employ.
Okay, so we'll.
So
ask-
there needs to be no, Mayor, no. We don't. I don't. I'm sorry. I don't have any more time. This has been a year. We need to talk about what the policies and procedures are. That's what we do. That's what we do as a city council. And we need to put a timeline on these things. This should not happen. If this happens again, it should not take 2-3 years.
The matter of the policy is separate from what's on the agenda, but I'll consult with the city attorney and the city manager to see what's appropriate to place on the agenda in terms of procedure and policy within the structure of state law and constitutional law.
we have one
Okay.
more public comment speaker, Heavenly Hughes. Ms. Hughes, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Mark, quick question. Did they mention, before you start my time, did they mention Dr. Treadell Skinner's passing, who was the director of the PUSD?
No, I don't think that was mentioned, Ms. Hughes.
Okay, well, we definitely want to give our condolences and our respect to Dr. Treadell Skinner, and also First Lady of Metropolitan Baptist Church. She was the director of the PUSD, and I think that we definitely should give remembrance and our past compassion and condolences to the family, the church, and to the city. We have lost another very reputable, now angel of our community. So I'll go ahead and move on.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I first want to say really quick, Mayor Victor Gordo, we really appreciate you coming out to the Peace Breakfast Peace in the Park, breakfast, walk, and roll. The community of Pasadena and Altadena was very excited to engage in positive, peaceful fellowship with you. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll go ahead and move forward. A year has passed since a tragic officer involved fatal shooting of an unarmed Black man, Mr. Anthony Mclean. We still have no answers, no accountability, and no justice. Officer Edwin Dominguez is a Pasadena police officer who shot Mr. Mclean twice in the back as Mr. Mclean was running away in fear for his life. Mclean bled out in the streets of Pasadena and died. Mclean's last words were, "Help me, I can't breathe." National Civil Rights Attorney Ben Crump and Attorney Kerry Harper are fighting for the family of the slain Anthony Mclean. We demand justice and accountability of the Pasadena police. And it sounds like we need to demand an investigation that has not been started. We need to demand to know what are the policy and the procedures when the Pasadena police have murdered a Black man here in Pasadena. We say no more bloodshed by the hands of the Pasadena Police Department, no more corruption, and no more police brutality. I'm still reading. We demand the city to put we demand the city of Pasadena to stop obstructing justice. And you say that the DA has no protective order, but we know that the civil rights attorneys you guys are saying that there must be some type of restraining order or something holding the family from getting the information that they need. So again, lift the protective order off police reports and body-worn camera footage surrounding the murder of Anthony Mclean. Criminal charges cannot be made. Civil criminal charges, if I must, cannot be made. The district, and I'll go forward because you're saying the district attorney does have access. And I'll say I am one of the co-founders of My Tribe Rise, and I am sick and tired and I am sick and tired of addressing racist policing. After George Floyd was killed by the police in Minneapolis, Anthony Mclean was killed by the police right here in Pasadena. Just like the video of George Floyd's killing, the video of Anthony Mclean's killing shows an officer who didn't
Your time has expired.
Was under no immediate threat, but chose to kill a Black man, Anthony Mclean. And I'll end there.
Thank you. That completes the initial 20 minutes. Victor Hodson, Sam Bills, Alyssa Gomez, Hiram Cormier Jr., Carmen Condi, Sarah Cruz, and Peter Austin Onrong are still remaining to be heard. And they will pick that up at the end of after the rest of the business is conducted. Thank you.
Okay. And this brings us to the consent calendar.
We have one public comment speaker on item 1. We also just want to state that a letter of support was received by the city clerk's office regarding item number 9, and that's been posted online, distributed to the city council, and made part of the record for tonight's item.
After the consent calendar, we're going to go out of order and take up item 19. Is there a motion? I'm sorry, is there one public comment?
We have one public comment speaker for item 1, Adriana Batista.
Ms. Bautista?
Go ahead, Ms. Batista.
Hello, I'm making a comment on this agenda item because it is raising salaries at PPD for how's it phrased? Sorry, just a moment. Non-represented management salary